And I think we're live. Let's see here. We're getting everything starting to load. We always wait an extra minute or so just to get everybody loaded up. Make sure everything's working properly. And it looks like we are live in the chat rooms and on X and everywhere else. So, we have some things to talk about. You might have been seeing online, maybe some social media accounts, signs of a impending storm. And of course the GFS, because the GFS is very reliable beyond 300 hours, is leading the way with a very impressive setup. So tonight we're definitely going to be covering that and talking about the way I'm going about this forecast and what's the best way to handle it. We'll also talk about the threat for showers and my concern about coastal flooding. And of course, we'll keep an eye on the Mets game because that's really important. The Braves have lost the lead. They might lose again tonight. And if the Mets push them back 3 games out, that's great. It's a great way to start the weekend. But I wasn't sure where I was going to start with today's discussion. Because on one hand, I can understand the excitement for those who are in their teens. Again, I have to put myself back to like when I was a teenager and I would watch the Weather Channel incessantly, right? Like, oh, look, there was thunderstorms around the Yucatan. I'm going to keep an eye on it. My parents probably thought I was insane because I'd watch the Weather Channel for like 6 hours trying to see if there was an update on some thunderstorms in the Caribbean. So I understand the want of watching the model guides. What I don't understand is when you have things like, oh, I'm hoping for a Cat 3 to move up the coast. No sane person, let me fix that. No one who owns property of any kind or rents or anything or has any type of bills wants a Cat 3 hurricane to march up the coast. We all love our winter storms. I love my winter storms. I don't want to see 40 inches of snow from a storm because that's bad because you could lose your roof, you lose power. In our case, we'd be okay with power because we have a generator, but you get the idea. You don't want bad things to happen to people. And as you get older, you see those impacts. And while you're in awe of the amazing power of the weather, and I mean, honestly, it's like a high when you're forecasting and you nail the forecast and you figure out all the chaos involved in it. I'm not going to lie, there isn't. There's an excitement to it. There's a drive. There's an adrenaline rush. But you never want to see anyone get hurt. And something like a Cat 3 hurricane marching up the coast or sharing that. Basically, what you have out there is fear porn floating around on various social media. Pick the one that you don't like for whatever reason. It's going to be there, whether it's on Facebook or X or on what is it called? What's the newest one out there now? I forgot what the other one's called out there. Let's see here. I got it on here somewhere. Oh yeah, TikTok. Oh yeah, that's great with Category 6 hurricanes. That's just lovely. So you kind of understand there's a balance to be made. So we're going to talk about that tonight. But first, let's talk about what is happening right now. Right now, we have an area low pressure is off the coast. This was PTC number 8, or at least some remnant parts of it. And this is a great time to talk about PTC number 8. Because there were maps out of, hey, this could be a tropical storm. In reality, it became nothing. Now, there's a reason why we have PTC 8. Because it allows us as a forecaster, and the National Weather Service kind of realized this, to be able to give people a heads up like, hey, this tropical low may form. At the end of the day, the impacts were still the same, regardless of forming or not. It produced a lot of heavy rain around North Carolina and Southern Virginia. Now, is producing pesky showers. Now, the past couple of miles were really producing a lot of heavy rainfall, but now that has all significantly backed off. Why is that the case? And again, this is something very important just to keep in the back of your head as we talk about this when we look at the tropical factors later on. Well, we have in our atmosphere, it's moistening up a bit, but we have quite a bit of dry air here. Okay, so you have moisture coming in, especially at the lower levels, which we've been seeing for the past couple of days with that easterly fetch. But in the mid levels, you have some dry pockets here that would limit your rainfall potential. In terms of the upper level trough, the upper level low isn't as strong as it was. So you're not seeing as strong a divergence and diffluence over the region, especially over the coastal waters. And the position of the upper level low would suggest your best lifting and dynamics are out here between the ridge. So right with this ridge axis here and our trough axis here, here's where you have your best potential for lifting, over the coastal waters in south of Long Island. And so that is essentially what we're seeing. What we've been seeing all day is plenty of rainfall out here. So if you're out fishing over here, it was a very wet day. But along the coastal plain, pesky shower or two, nothing too significant. In terms of precipitable water value, well, clearly we're having plenty of Atlantic moisture being driven right into the coastal plain. So this is going to lead to support of low clouds and basically cloudy conditions throughout the forecast period, which we've seen a lot of cloud cover, a little bit of drizzle, but that's about it. And on the water vapor side of that picture, you can see where all your lifting is focused at, right? Your upper level low is not as strong. And so all of this tells me, like, yeah, this is not as significant of a setup for rainfall as what we were looking at 2 days ago. What you have here is a situation where your upper level low is weakening and opening up a little bit faster. Your old ridge from the fading Rex block is giving way. All your strong lifting is getting pushed out to the east. And so when you take a look at the model guidance, well, now all your best PVA is over the Atlantic. And so as a result, what you end up with is variable cloud cover, isolated widely scattered showers. If you have plans, I don't know, like going to Citi Field, especially if you want to see the Phillies and the Mets battle it out, I don't expect much in the way of an impact in terms of rainfall. And look, guys, we need the rainfall. It's been awfully dry, and we need to get more rainfall to really rectify the situation here. But in this case, when you have an upper level low sitting to the east of you like this, what you end up with is that your strongest dynamics remain over the Atlantic Ocean, and the only thing you get is just distorted, broken PVA. And that's also showing up here at 850 millibars. Now, this transport is going to send plenty of moisture into the atmosphere, but all of it based off of the maritime air mass, and without much in the way of organized lifting, well, you're going to end up with a lot of pockets of dry air in the mid-levels. And it looks like the Mets are about to take the lead, so that's good news. So you get a lot of pockets of dry air here. So what this tells us is that this is a scenario you get a lot of mix of sun and clouds, a lot of broken showers, but nothing heavy. Meanwhile, at 850 millibars, you get your maritime air to build in. So on average, you're talking about temperatures basically in the 70s, no significant well above or below normal temperatures. And here, let's refresh the HRR guidance real fast. Hopefully this comes up pretty quickly. There we go. And you see over the next 18 hours, in fact, we'll do 22. Look where all your rainfall is staying. It's staying over the coastal waters. So just a few pesky showers, if that, some drizzle. You'll be lucky to get a half an inch of rain on the immediate coast from one of these showers hanging around. But that's about it. And the same thing on the NAM. Not really showing much in the way of any type of significant rainfall. So we have gone from a scenario where, like, hey, we have a lot of rainfall on the way, to we'll be lucky to get a shower. And it all comes down to the unique placement of our upper level lows. Okay, now store that, keep it in the back of your mind in our later discussion. So under European guidance, basically you just end up with a very quiet weather pattern. Cloudy, cool, maritime air mass, some drizzle, some scattered showers. That's about it. Not looking for anything major. The one thing that is a problem, and we've been talking about this, I've been talking about this since going almost 2 weeks now, where I was saying, like, look, this is going to be a persistent easterly wind with astronomical high tide. We're going to have a threat for coastal flooding, and that is essentially what we're going to be setting up with this easterly component in the winds, not only through the next 90 hours, but you can go all the way on through next week. And so what that introduces is the potential for a persistent coastal flooding because the water isn't able to exit out when we have low tide, and the high tide just keeps on building up on itself. So these are factors that could be a significant problem when it comes to dealing with coastal flooding. So right now, I'm thinking at most 1 to 3 feet above normal as we move on through the forecast period into next week. For the most part, you're talking about minor coastal flooding on the immediate coast, maybe some moderate coastal flooding. But that's all due to our easterly fetch. Now for what everyone is very, very interested in, which is the tropics. Doesn't actually look very impressive, does it? No? The intertropical convergence zone is dead. I mean, this is mid-September during a supposed developing La Nina. Very warm waters. This is really dead. This looks like something that you would see out of El Nino. So we're not seeing much in the way of any convection out here. So we're not seeing much in the way of any type of strong tropical wave that really catches our eye that could be entering the Caribbean. We have some signs of convection down here in the Central Caribbean, but nothing impressive. No low-level circulation, no strong sustained thunderstorms. They pop up and they weaken as you would expect them to do this time of year. Nothing that stands out. Oh, but there is a whole lot of dry air. But you know what? Let's step back here, and maybe there's something like a upper level low, or what we call a tropical gyre. Nope, nothing, nada, nothing. So we don't really have a strong tropical wave entering. We don't have any type of strong upper level development to really ignite a tropical low. We do have more of a favorable environment we're moving towards in the MJO, Madden-Julian Oscillation, that would support the development of something in the Western Caribbean. But we have a lot of inhibiting factors here. Again, the winds here are a little bit stronger, so maybe a little bit of vertical wind shear. You have some dry air in the mid-levels, and you have a ton of dry air in the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, that's not exactly the most favorable environment for tropical development. You want to see even more unfavorable? Let's go even lower in the atmosphere. Hello, dry air. It's kind of like Lloyd Lindsay Young. Hello, New Jersey. Well, hello, dry air. Because this is a lot of dry air for this time of year in the tropics. And you're not seeing a whole lot. You got this thunderstorm complex here trying to fester about, but nothing impressive. So I want to show this not to say, hey, look, there's nothing in terms of the model guidance. We're going to get to that in a moment. What I'm trying to show you is that, look, the environment that we are in is not as favorable to produce a monster storm as some may have led you to believe. Okay, yes, we have very warm Atlantic waters. That's definitely true. That's one component. And the reason why I'm stressing this is that you have to understand the nature of these low pressure systems. They're driven by a mesoscale evolution. And when you're trying to use synoptic models to model mesoscale situations, you end up with a lot of convective feedback error. It's just the nature of the model. Essentially, you're using a hammer to take care of a tack, and you're trying to slam it into the wall. You're going to have a lot of broken wall, okay? So you want to be careful when talking about the potential here, because what you don't want to do is mislead people. So what can you do at this point? And again, we're going to study the model guidance in a moment. And I want to put my full face on here because this is important. What you don't want to do is make storm tracks from model guidance, because on one hand, you're going to scare people, and then when it doesn't happen, then they're not going to believe you when you do have to prepare. And on the other hand, you're going to have people tune out of any potential threat because they just saw maybe a day ago that your lines were nowhere near them. And that could be a huge mistake. So, for example, if you're in southern Texas, let's say southeastern Texas, say south of Houston, and you see that it's nowhere near you, turn off, no big deal. It's Florida's problem. Because I saw the GFS everywhere, and we all know that GFS beyond 180 hours is golden, right? Or the European for that matter. You do a 10-day European solution, that's just as reliable. So your job as a meteorologist is not to scare people or mislead people. So what we have is an unfavorable environment right now that has the potential to become more favorable. That's it. That's all we have. We don't have a low pressure system. So if we don't have a low pressure system, we can't study the structure of the storm, which is extremely important in trying to understand whether or not we have the potential for rapid intensification, slow intensification, whether or not it's going to be interacting with the Yucatan Peninsula or not. Well, and the Mets are really pouring it on. 4-0. Nice. So all these factors have a huge impact on your forecast. So what I don't want to do is mislead you into posting a model solution that I know is missing a ton of information and data. So how do you prepare for this? Well, the best way to prepare for it is to do what you've been doing. It's hurricane season. Have your supplies ready. That's it. That's it. That's all you can do right now, because we don't have any other data otherwise. And it is irresponsible to make maps and have storm tracks and L's and X's and all that stuff when you have nothing out here yet. We don't know if this low is going to form around Belize, or if it's going to form near Cuba, or if it not even form at all. That's why you got to be careful. Because remember, as a meteorologist, you are the person that has that is responsible for the trust of your audience. So when we take a look at some of the model guidance here, this is the latest European ensemble spread here. And we'll zoom in down here. And boy, oh boy, do we have a ton of spaghetti here. Now, I know what everyone's going to focus on. They're going to focus on the solutions with the worst case scenario. I get it. You want to get clicks and whatnot and say that you have 70,000 followers or whatever. But in reality, what you have here is a lot of solutions where almost nothing develops. Down here. You have a lot of solutions where it goes into Yucatan Peninsula, struggles, and then moves into Mexico. So by putting any type of storm track up in here, now you're not preparing anyone in Mexico. And look, they matter. I got clients down there. You know, you can't be just ignoring them just because it's not going to drive news cycles in the United States. And you got a couple of features up here with some moderate, strong, low pressure systems, different timings, different scenarios, different strengths. That's all you have. But a lot of this is just into the Yucatan Peninsula, and then that's it. So this is the operational guidance. And notice we get all the way to 90 hours out, nothing. So now we're going up to 5 days out of forecasting a warm core low. Nothing. Nada. Does this sound familiar? Yeah. Because remember when we had a tropical wave out here, it was supposed to form here, here, here. Oh, well, here. No. Well, here. No. Well, okay. It finally forms here. So what I'm trying to explain here is that model guidance volatility is very high in these situations. So what you don't have is any concrete data right now. You have a potential solution here in the European of a weak low pressure system with a lot of rainfall over the central and western Gulf coasts. Maybe. Okay. So that's one solution. But let's take a look at the GFS solution. Well, the GFS wouldn't be the GFS if it didn't have all sorts of low pressure systems bouncing around 90 hours out. You're starting to see that convective feedback. How do you know convective feedback? Let's zoom in. That. Hello. When you start getting bullseyes here and crosses here in your guidance here, and you're getting these weird wiggly lines, that's convective feedback error, ladies and gentlemen. That creates all sorts of fun solutions. And what we used to call back, and I'm dating myself, back in the late 90s, a Murphicane. What's a Murphicane? Murph is the old version before GFS, where at the end of 10 days, it always produced a massive hurricane somewhere on the East Coast, even in the winter. Well, this is where you start getting your Murphicanes, because you get this convective feedback. And in this case, this is a 12Z solution. Sends it up into Florida, kind of meanders about. Of course, it gets lonely, so they decide to produce another storm out here, just kind of spinning around itself and meandering about. But again, does this rapid setup here mirror the current environment? Not really. Well, let's take a look at the 18Z. I'm sure this will be very reliable. Same situation, difficult, struggling to develop, 5 days out, not really showing all that much. Pops off the storm, get a little bit of convective feedback error, and then it produces what looks like maybe a Cat 4 or 5 storm out of this. Again, a lot we don't know. Well, what don't we know? Well, for one, this is the GFS precipitable water values, and it just spawns the storm pretty much out of the weak convection that's sitting down here. No low-level circulation as of yet. And I'm not saying that it can't or won't develop. What I'm saying is that you don't want to take any of these characteristics and start showing them to the public without a lot of caveats, like what we're doing right now in this video. We're saying in this discussion, we're saying, okay, here's what the guidance is showing. Here's some of the errors that are showing up. This is how to best prepare for it. Have your supplies ready. That's it. The 12Z GFS, notice the 12Z GFS, it was slower to develop anything because it tried to pick up some dry air with the interaction on Central America. And it doesn't develop it as well because the system is battling dry air the whole time. Holy smokes, the Mets are really kicking up. The Nimmo finally hit a home run. There you go. Let's see here. The European, same thing. Battling dry air, interacting with the Yucatan Peninsula. Just organized tropical low pressure system in the central Gulf Coast. So when you take a look at how this is all setting up, this is 500 millibars. And let's go to 120 hours out. Actually, you know what? Let's go to, here we are, 150 hours out. Why? Well, we'll compare that with the European and the GFS. What is the difference here? Okay, now on the GFS, you have a nice ridge here around Florida. You have your tropical low apparently developing pretty rapidly. And you have this upper level trough. On the European, the trough is more positively tilted. The low pressure system is more disorganized. High pressure is about the only thing that's the same in this whole solution. So why am I showing you this? I'm showing you this to show you the large spread in the model guidance here. And I don't know which solution is right, or if any of them are right. And the reason why we don't know that is because we don't know what the initialization is of this low pressure system. So what I'm trying to share with you and what I'm trying to educate you on is that there's a reason why responsible meteorologists do not share this type of guidance. It is because there's nothing to share. There's nothing to gain from it at all in this situation. What are you trying to convey a data? Oh, look, it could be a major hurricane or nothing. That's a hell of a spread. No, the only thing you could say is, hey, look, we're going to be watching out for some tropical development towards the middle and end of next week. Make sure you have your supplies. That's it. You can't really share any guidance on that. So, given the amount of dry air in place already, yeah, I mean, the MJO would certainly suggest that there is something here that could pop up, but that something here could simply be a tropical depression. Or everything aligns just right. Maybe the trough aligns just right and enhances the outflow just perfectly. And you get a strong storm. But let's wait until we actually get a low-level circulation formed. And then we could start looking at model guidance and say, okay, who's really at risk? Who needs to prepare? Because if we don't do that, then when we have a real major storm, people aren't going to pay attention. And holy smokes, I just noticed Mets are up 9-0. Sorry, Braves, you're not catching anyone today. That is awesome. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to go over to the premium chat and we're going to answer any questions that are right there. And then after that, we'll check out YouTube and see if there's any other social media questions and we'll go from there. Okay? So let's see here. What do we have? I think that generally, this is from Card Shark. Good evening, Card. I think that generally those wishing for strong hurricanes to hit their area or tornadoes to hit their area have never experienced one or know anyone who has, because if they did, they would be praying for a miss. I would say you have to, as a young weather enthusiast, you have to temper the excitement and awe of a storm with the damage that it incurs. You know, I understand the excitement of chasing tornadoes. And they look, I did it. It's majestic. It's beautiful when you're in Kansas and the only thing that's getting in the way of a tornado is grass. There's no buildings. They already moved the cows, so the steak is okay. And you got everyone out of the way. It doesn't destroy any homes. It's beautiful. Watching a major snowstorm, beautiful. Why? Because my parents were already home. I didn't have to worry about them being caught on the roadways. And the only thing we had to do was make snowmen and shovel out the driveway. These are beautiful things. These are fun things to follow. And if you're out of the way of danger, it's wonderful. Hurricanes you can't dodge. I mean, if you experience Sandy, no one wants to experience that. If you're too young to know what that was like, think about not having electricity for 7 days. No phones, no radios, no refrigerator, no air conditioning or heating. You don't want that, okay? Heck, I challenge you to put away your cell phone and stay away from social media for a day, let alone 7. You might lose your mind. Lots of cold air over Asia right now, especially Siberia. Yes, the snow growth has been very impressive in Siberia so far this fall. We'll see what that means. I wrote about it in the long range thoughts today, so definitely check that out. But we're certainly seeing a good, healthy start, which could potentially be a good sign in terms of weakening the polar vortex. Timing is, as always, key, and we have to see how that measures in with the positive QBO, which I'm working on. 70 and 10 millibar polar circulations look like they are starting to get established. Yes, probably next week or early October, you'll see them really start to lock in. Let's see. Presume this, along with the EPO and MJO phases, RY is expected to get a Pacific flow towards the end of the month and into October. You'll get a pretty nice robust trough around the Gulf of Alaska, and you'll get this Pacific air mass, but it's going to be tempered with a polar air mass in October. So I'd like above normal temperatures, but not well above. And I'm still a little wary of the maritime air masses because they've been creating some havoc this fall already. So it'll be interesting to watch. 18Z, of course, is producing not one, but 2 hurricanes in this environment, including a monster at 240 hours. Yeah, it's typical GFS. The 18G GFS is just, it's great for wallpaper. Like if you want to have an epic storm on your computer screen, just to kind of look at when you're bored or you just need to take a break, the 18Z GFS never fails to produce. Given all that dry air, how is anything forming without sucking in tons of dry air? It is possible, and this is why we need to wait to see how this low-level circulation develops. So, for example, and let me pull up a satellite picture here so that way we can go over this. Okay, so let's say this is festering about for a couple of days, right? And it starts to produce a little weak circulation. There are a couple of things we need to know when this happens. First of all, is it vertically stacked? Is it aligned vertically correctly, which you need in a warm core circulation? Or are the strong winds that we saw right here, are they such that it creates a kind of a tilt? When you have a tropical low that has a tilt orientation vertically, they don't intensify as quickly. Okay, they kind of are stunted in growth. So you have to see, okay, what is the structure initially and what needs to be overcome? And if you get dry air mixed in there, like right here, then you end up with even more for a tropical low pressure system to overcome. So when you have this type of situation, well, unfortunately, it becomes very, very difficult to make any type of proclamation. Now, if I had a strong tropical wave, let's say I had a really strong tropical wave out here, nice little bow to it, and it was producing very, very impressive thunderstorms, and the only thing we had to wait for was a low-level circulation, I'd be a little bit more aggressive. At the very least, I'd be able to pinpoint where a potential low could form, and then from there, see what the environment is dealing with. And you'll probably already would have like a mid-level circulation trying to form already. Right now, we have nada. But if something forms, it's going to be out here. Okay, those are some excellent questions. Let's see what we got around YouTube. Let's see here. Does it look like there'll be a tropical? Well, we talked about that. The new GFS model is out for lunch, possibly, most likely, typically. The GFS or the European, I would suggest not trusting anything until you get under 5 days in a solution. This is going to be the tropical version of my winter forecasting method. Anything 7 to 10 days out is a curiosity and nothing more. 5 to 7 days out, keep an eye out. Nothing really to worry about. 3 to 5 days out, hey, we got some real data here. We could see the short wave. We could start organizing where we think the best potential for heavier snowfall or heavier precipitation is. Under 3 days out, let's get the snow maps rolling. Let's figure out the potential for convective banding in this storm and go from there, right? In tropical forecasting, it's kind of the same thing. 7 to 10 days out, it's beautiful wallpaper for your computer. That's about it, okay? 5 to 7 days out, interesting. Keep an eye on it. Let people know, like, hey, look, check your supplies. Make sure you got your bottled water, all that good stuff. Know where you want to go if there is something developing. 3 to 5 days out, you actually have a tropical low developing. You actually have reliable data of the warm core low. Hey, start to let people know this is the general area. Let's say the Central Gulf Coast or the Florida Panhandle. And then under 3 days out, now you can zoom in on cities and get more details on the timing and so on and so forth. That's how you have to use the model guidance. Are we done with thunderstorms now that fall's coming? For the most part, I don't want to 100% rule it out, but for the most part, we're pretty much done with like the strong, severe thunderstorm lines and whatnot. Do you expect fall foliage to peak earlier this year? That's a good one. Already seeing some color in Jersey City. Well, the fact that we didn't have a lot of rainfall, I think that usually means that you see an onset of the fall foliage a little bit faster. So I think that's going to be a pretty good bet to see that happen. However, I'm already seeing it in my backyard, so I agree with you. Is this winter going to be a dud? Well, we're not going to talk about winter today. The winter forecast will be out around October 20th. I got to nail down an exact date, but I'm starting to work on some of the details of what I normally look at, and then we'll go from there. Anything on X or... Uh-oh. Well, apparently we do. Let's see what we got. Holy smokes. This is one person. Let's see here. What do we have? Goes off. Unreliable data. Hope you're doing well. Thank you, Dean. We need to prepare the potential, but also responsible. Tornadoes in the Mid-Atlantic is awful. The tornadoes anywhere is awful. Storm chasers never wish bad on anyone. Well, that's true. Most don't. I've run into a couple where I'm like, are you insane? But most are very much aware of the environment, and they're very good at calling up for authorities and police and whatnot to help people. Let's see here. You're a chaser or a consultant meteorologist, you don't want to deal with it. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the problem with a lot of data that's out there and a lot of... It's tough because we're really in the golden age of meteorology in terms of being able to reach people and get the word out. But at the same time, you have some individuals who, I don't know, their motives are less than desirable. You know, they create fake pictures, they put people in danger, but there are other people who generally want to know about the dynamics. And some of them, look, they may not have the chops to deal with the math and all the physics involved in becoming a meteorologist, but that doesn't stop them from loving the weather. And I think that's a wonderful and beautiful thing. I mean, it's sometimes, you know, you're looking at a thunderstorm or a winter storm, especially a snowstorm. For me, I just love the sound of the snow falling. It's amazing. And I think that's a great thing to share that love with other people. But also at the same time, it's rather annoying when you have individuals posting a 18Z GFS that's 300 hours out and scaring the heck out of people because they don't know better. Let's see here. I know we're starting to see more trends to the west. Do you think they could shift back to I'm guessing, to the east? We don't know. That's the problem. That's the fundamental problem. We don't know where this low is going to form. So to trust any trend or shift on any guidance is a waste of time. We have no idea whether the low is going to form around Honduras or Belize, or whether it's going to form closer to Cuba. And all that has a direct impact on how fast it develops, whether there's interaction with land, whether or not it gets picked up by a trough that is passing over the Mississippi River Valley. We don't know whether or not it would be pulled northward faster or miss the trough and end up in the Gulf of Mexico. No idea, because we don't know where the initialization is. So if we don't know where the low is going to form yet, then we don't know what the track is going to be at all in any way, shape, or form. Which is why if you have any individuals making a big noise about things shifting either way, I got news for you. It's going to be shifting either way for the next 5 days until something actually forms. It's going to shift east, it's going to shift west, it'll shift north and south, left, right, up, down, down, A, B, A, B. There. Now you got 7,000 lives on link. That's pretty much it. We don't know. We don't know because there's nothing there. Nothing. It's gone. It's not there. There's nothing to track. Boogity boogity boo. There's nothing there. So that's why you're seeing all the model guidance go all over the place. Because we don't have a low. Or a trough for that matter. Or sustained thunderstorms. That's why you're seeing what you're seeing. And that's kind of the bottom line. Even if Stone Cold doesn't say so. I'm just pulling out all the 90s references. I love it. Let's see here. Let's see. For 16 days without power during Sandy. Yeah. Sandy is the reason why the first thing we did when we bought a house was like, generator.
Well, then we lost power with just a couple minor things.
Yeah, with a couple of minor storms. That's right. In Freehold, like we had like no power. And it was humid. And we actually had ice packs we were putting on our chests to just try to stay
Ida,
cool.
Right?
Yes, Ida. Yes,
August.
Ida.
And we lost power for 6 days.
6 days. Yeah, you can keep that. No, thank you.
In our apartment.
With no air. It was poor air conditioning to begin with. But then you throw in basic...
No air, no circulation, no ceiling fans.
No circulation, no ceiling fans. Yeah, no thank you. That was rough. That was very rough. Tell you what else is rough. National pitchers. Holy smokes. Well, it looks like the Braves are going to win their game, but they'll lose again soon. Let's see if there's anything else. Anything on X anymore?
Well, it wasn't X, it was Facebook.
Or Facebook?
X has nothing. Facebook. Hold on, I'm hopping around, so.
Okay.
Facebook is a pain in my rear end, so.
You know, the problem with Facebook is that it's Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
hate it.
I don't trust their owner. He looks like an alien. It's very off-putting. I'm sorry. The man don't blink. It's just
It's the lack of eyebrows.
or
I
something.
speak as somebody who lacks eyebrows.
No, but honey, you blink. It's
Yeah.
much different. It's very off-putting. Let's see
I
here.
don't see anything else.
So right now, let's see what we got here closer to home because we covered the hurricane thing. Right now, we are in our fall pattern. We don't have a sustained La Nina yet, but we're moving in that direction. I think next week we'll focus more on the La Nina if we don't have a storm out there, and really focus on what type of La Nina we're dealing with here. Still in the infant stages. The SOI really hasn't taken hold either, for that matter. Not really all that impressive right now. The PDO has cooled off as expected, which strongly suggests that we're going to be dealing with a negative PDO for this winter season with a weak La Nina. What type of generator? We got a whole house generator. What is it? A Generac?
Generac.
Generac. Yeah. Whole house generator is ready to roll. And also, because I run the business here, tax write off. So, it's nice. And
But it doesn't stop.
Yep. Yep. And it's a little loud, but I don't mind it because I have power, So that works out. In terms of the setup right now, again, a few showers. I'm not really seeing anything that's going to be heavy. Let's see if we got anything new with the HRR to really zone in on. And right now, yeah, it's keeping a lot of that precipitation off the coast. At most, drizzle. If you're driving tomorrow morning, watch out for some locally dense fog on the coast. But I'm not seeing anything that's of significant rainfall or anything of that nature. And it looks like everything's quiet on YouTube. And it looks like I answered all the questions that need to be answered here. So with that, I think I pretty much covered where we're at with this possible tropical low pressure system. When we actually have data, i.e. a low pressure system to actually track, we'll have better data, and then we'll know. What's that?
Something came into YouTube.
Oh, all right, let's check it out. Let's see here.
Wildfires and smoke.
I noticed there has been smoke from the wildfires affecting our area. Does that increase in particulates across the area for rain or other weather patterns? That's a great question. Someone's been taking their meteorology classes. In years past, like when the sky was turning orange, remember that? That would have enhanced the rainfall potential when you start to get a lot of moisture. This influence is not as strong. If we got enough lifting, yeah, it could enhance some of the rainfall, but not noticeably enough. When you start getting a lot of heavy smoke and then you get a moisture transport undercutting it, that could enhance the potential for heavy rainfall, but it won't be a driver. But what we have right now being transported isn't really all that impressive. Let's see if I can find data on a smoke plume. Let's see. I wonder if I still have that available.
Correction.
No, affecting my astrophotography. Possibly. Well, I mean, it certainly would change the sky a bit. And in fact, here, I pulled up some new data here. This is smoke in the atmosphere. In terms of sky coverage, so in the short term, probably up more towards the Poconos and Catskills, you'd have more of an effect. Let's zoom out a little bit. Yeah, a lot of this effect is up towards really New England and the Great Lakes. You're not really seeing a strong impact down towards the northern Atlantic. So, in terms of photography, I would say that if you head up towards the Poconos, the Catskills, Central Hudson River Valley, probably get some pretty wicked sunsets. If you get enough breaking in the cloud cover. Not going to be the best conditions for that the next couple of days, but there will be some influence on that. And I think we'll call that. I think that's the last question. Anything else on social media? All right. Well, for that, I think we'll call it a night. Outstanding questions as always, guys. Great job with a lot of the interaction. And we'll keep an eye and see what happens in the tropics. If anything actually bubbles up, or is all of this just one big disappointment? We'll find out in the next couple of days. But in the meantime, stay safe out there.